All right, everybody, and welcome. Hopefully, my audio is working fine. We're getting some weird little, of course, software updates, and it's like everything else in the world changes your workflow completely. It's just one of those weird days. You guys ever have those? I guess I'm probably talking to the choir here. I mean, knowing the field that we're all in, there's a lot of weird days in the field. But literally, my awesome blue lights back there stopped working, and it is what it is. Anyway, it's Friday, so we're all happy about that. So thanks for hanging out and showing up to the Hubcast. We appreciate it. If this is your first time here, number one, I'll just apologize in advance for that. No, welcome to the show. What we like to talk about is a lot of digital investigation related stuff. And challenges that we have as investigators, how we can maybe make the job a little bit easier, trying to share information as much as possible. And a little bit, those of you who don't know me, a little bit about my background. I was a digital investigator for a few too many years, and then moved over into the private sector. And now Cyber Social Hub, what that is kind of just the online community for digital investigators. So it's a place where we can help each other out. And if you get stuck, hopefully someone will have an answer. I've been out of the game a little too long now. I don't always have the answer. I have to talk to much smarter people than myself. Hence, that is an awesome segue into my guest here. If you don't know who this gentleman is, he's been on the show quite a few times. Adam, welcome, sir. Appreciate you hanging out with me again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, always, man. Last time we talked was, I guess, just shy of a month now, right? It was the first week of this month.
It seems a long time ago already.
It does. It's like, man, it was just 3 weeks ago, really.
Yeah.
We were down in, of course, I can't say much warmer now weather because it's been really hot here where I'm at in Ohio, but it was pretty warm in North Carolina.
There,
yeah. Down at Techno Security.
The UK has had 4 days of hot weather this week. Typically, one of those days was when I was doing a webinar. So we've had our summer now. It's over and winter's coming.
Right. All right. Define hot there in the UK, because it's funny. You know, I'm all over social media. I like watching it. Nothing warms my heart more than a really bad dad joke meme. I live for those things. But are you going to do the conversion for me? Is that what you're doing?
I'm having to do the conversion.
Okay.
So
I was ready to do it.
You guys don't consider this as hot, and my US colleagues are always saying that isn't hot. But try putting yourself in a brick house with double glazed windows that is insulated to cope with cold weather, and then put no AC in. And we got up to 80 this week.
80?
Yeah.
Holy cow, you're right. That's not hot.
Yeah, I knew you'd say that.
Yeah, no, that's not hot at all. We were, I think we almost reached triple digits. I think it was 2 weeks ago now here. It was so hot. It was insane. But yeah. Megan's like saying anything above 70 is hot, is what Megan says. So
yeah, I agree with Megan.
Yeah, there it is. There's her comment right there. So, oh goodness. Anyway, how was your travels in and out of Techno Security? Good, I hope. I heard some people had some challenges here and there.
Yeah, I think Techno's Wilmington's always an awkward one to get to for internationals because you can never get a direct there. But Wilmington is such a quaint, nice little airport. And flying in on, it's the first time I've ever flown in on I think it was American I flew with, but it's one of those planes where you get on, you've got the aisle seat, and then you've got one seat by the window, and then two the other side.
Oh, awesome.
Never been on a plane that small before.
Was it a prop plane or was it actually a jet?
It was a jet, yeah.
Okay. I remember when it was in Myrtle Beach, I used to have to fly in from Cleveland. I flew into Newark, and then from Newark, caught a prop plane down to Myrtle Beach, and that was interesting.
But no, it's fairly. I went via Philadelphia this time, which now I've got global entry. It's so much easier entering the US.
I could imagine so. Yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah, I think the kicker for me was Techno West last year. So it's a direct flight from London to LAX, 12 hours.
Yeah.
Which is pushing you to the extreme limit. And then you get off the aircraft, and the first thing you want to feel is fresh air. And then you see the immigration line. I was in it for 2.5 hours. So as soon as I got to the airport, I applied for global entry, and the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a better way, if you've not kept up with the U.S.'s, political scenario. I think you can just fly anywhere into Mexico and just walk across. It's probably faster than that line you had to wait in.
Yeah. And maybe if your election goes right, the wall will become bigger, like the wall of the North.
Right. Right, guys. That's a joke. Don't tear me up in the comments. I got to say that now. If you can't take a joke about our political system, you don't need to be here. That's for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people who do the transatlantic from Europe, you can actually pass US immigration in Dublin. Apparently, that's one of the ways of sort of combating
Really?
it.
Huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, a little tip for people who are coming in from Europe: you can fly to Dublin, clear US immigration, so then you're just straight in.
Excellent. That makes it really nice. Have you done that yet? Have you given it a shot?
No, I never. I was going to do it, and then I just thought I'll get global entry because otherwise, I'm not one of these people who like connections. So if I can avoid them and fly direct, then I'm going to do that. So
yeah, I don't blame you. I hate it. My days of flying I don't do it very often anymore. I don't miss it. So kudos to you for still traveling the globe and educating people in the realm of forensics for sure.
Yeah, it's certainly, the travel part is horrendous, but I enjoy meeting the industry is so different across the globe. Everybody's facing their own challenges, which are normally imposed on them by their governments, which is really strange. So like the UK is being battered for sort of accreditation and ISO standards, and you go to another country and they're like, don't even know what ISO is. So it's really interesting seeing everyone's pain points.
Right.
But you could make a solution that could give the US the golden ticket, but it wouldn't then give anyone else any sort of benefit. So yeah, it's a real hard, as a software company, it's hard to find that balance of finding the perfect solution for a global sort of approach, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And before we fully dive into the forensic software talk, I want to, obviously you've been on the show before, but I want to refresh anybody who may be watching now and hasn't seen the past episodes, a little bit about your background. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah. So similar to yourself, came from UK law enforcement. So started off as a frontline Bobby with the hat that people can see in the background.
Awesome. Is that your actual hat?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was lost. Yeah. It was lost.
Mine's back there. You can't see it's in the dark, but yeah.
Yeah. So in the UK, it's a handball backing, but I lost that for a number of years and then suddenly found it. So I get to keep it now.
Right.
So yeah, so in the UK, you start as a police officer, but you don't get given a patrol car because the cities aren't as big as the cities over for you guys. So you sort of learn the trade by walking the beat, as they call it here.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that and then sort of transitioned into plainclothes, detective work. And I was on a plainclothes drugs team, and sort of the majority of our weeks was going and busting doors down, basically. And I loved it. And that's where my career was going. I enjoyed it. I got trained in undercover work. It was sort of completely my world. And then we were executing a drugs bust. And as we were running into the property, I slipped on the grass and my kneecap ended up on that leg. And yeah, sort of popped it back in and my knee swelled, and ended up finding that I had an underlying issue with my knee and needed quite heavy surgery that was going to sort of take some time. So I was sidelined in my unit for quite some time, and I got bored. So I ended up doing a degree in software development. And it was sort of, as I was doing it, my boss at the time sort of said, rather than just sit on the sidelines here, do you want to go and work up in the cyber and the forensic unit? Go up there and help those guys out. So I went up there and I never escaped, and sort of ended my career in that unit, and then made the transition to the sort of private industry.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a very similar path. Minus, I still have my knees intact, so that had to have been painful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was, and it's sort of, so for anyone who's ever dislocated anything will know this, but the dislocation is painful, but you then know that you've got to go through that same pain to get it back into place.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that wouldn't have
But
been.
Yeah, and sort of my transition into the forensic unit in the police was, I sort of went into the sausage factory element. So back then it was mainly computer forensics. So we were imaging drives of FTK Imager. Then we were running sort of encryption checking software. We were running sort of JAD's first version of IEF to check for artifacts. And then we were using Lace Blue Bear to carve for images and videos if it was a CSAM job. And it was very much I was running 20 workstations. I didn't really have to think about it. I just had to follow a process. And then I'd set my 20 workstations off, and then I'd be sat there twiddling my thumbs. So I thought to myself, well, how can I automate this? So I ended up writing, it was an old school sort of command line script, because FTK Imager could be run by command line.
Yeah.
And several other tools could be. So I ended up, my 20 workstations, writing a script that would allow me to connect up to 9 drives on each machine and just walk away. So I pretty much did myself out of a job, because you could come in on a Monday and you could set the whole week ahead, and it would image a drive. It would then run the encryption software. It would then run Axiom. It would then run Lace. So you didn't have to, because you remember the industry, Kevin. You'd go home and sort of 10 minutes after you left the office, that process would finish, and then it would be sat there idle overnight. Well, I sort of eliminated that issue. And my boss at the time sort of looked at it and said, Adam, do you want to move out of the sausage factory and come and work on, we called it in our unit, the further work. So the challenges that came in from court, which was this individual's gone not guilty. Can you dig deeper beyond what sort of the Axiom tools are telling us, and can you tell us what's really going on? And that's when I really sort of found my niche in the industry. That's the stuff I really enjoyed, because it was solving the puzzles that hadn't been solved.
Right.
That's what I enjoyed.
Yeah, that's always a lot of fun when you finding new artifacts and just new ways to how is the system leaving the evidence. Yeah, it's fun.
And I sort of, like I said, when I started, it was all computers. We'd sort of have, I don't know, 20 computer exhibits to 2 phone in a case. And then slowly over time, pendulum swung the other way. But phones weren't as simple to automate, because you've got to press certain buttons, stand on one leg. You've got to hope that it's a full moon tonight, otherwise you won't get an extraction. And they were really difficult. But what I liked about phones was, because of the nature of them and how much they change, there was no white papers out there. No one had solved that puzzle for you. Because I remember, like, my first computer work, and a suspect was using LimeWire or one of those elements, and I was trying to sort of reverse engineer it and solve that puzzle. And then a quick Google search, and there's 20 white papers on it. So it sort of took the fun out of it.
Yeah.
It was good because I could quickly find the answer that I was looking for, but I enjoyed the hunt.
Yep, I was the same way. Exactly the same way. It's a lot of fun for sure. And now you're with MSAB, which I don't think I mentioned that at all. It's hopefully everyone got it, because it's right under your name. So if you missed that, you're not reading the title there. And how long have you been with MSAB now?
So I've been with MSAB since 2019.
Okay.
So 5 years.
Very good.
Really enjoy it. Great company to work for. Really nice people, and they're just, the people remind me of the cops. They go above and beyond.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I fit in so well.
Yeah. I say it was funny. It seems like every time we go to a trade show, we're almost across from each other now. And that doesn't happen, because there's a lot of booths at these trade shows. And now it's 2 in a row, actually, right? Because we were in.
Well, I think it's probably because of Steph in our marketing in the US, she likes to keep an eye on you.
Yeah,
so I think that's
probably right.
Yeah.
To see what's happening. Hey, are they going to be pulling us on? Yeah. I still have my shirt too. I just wore that exact same shirt that you're wearing.
Yeah.
Not yesterday, the day before yesterday. Yeah, I got that at Techno Security. So
and as we're plugging each other.
I love it. So sly, just bringing that in. I noticed it was a clear substance and not a pint at all of anything other than.
No, you're very honoured. So here in the UK, it's 7:20. Kevin has made me miss happy hour at my local pub, and I'm drinking water. So.
I know I'm surprised by that. I'm very surprised.
Yeah.
So very good. Yeah. So Megan's we're doing product placements. We can do sly product placements every now and then, just slide them in.
But no, this MSAB t-shirt, obviously, it was a giveaway for Techno, and it was a giveaway at the event in London I was at recently, and it's really gone down a storm. And we've had probably, I think, only about 2 people who have walked up and instantly converted to binary.
What?
Which, yeah.
That's like the Matrix, right? When the guy was reading the raw code, I was flying by in the Matrix. There was no way I could do that. I remember I had to ask Stephanie. I was like, "Don't make me translate this. Just tell me what it is." I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to make someone translate it. I'm not telling it.
Yeah. No, I've never been. I can sort of recognize patterns. So when I've been working on a job and you're looking at sort of timestamps in hex, they do start to pop out at you.
Right.
And like I can recognize certain encoding, but I couldn't look at this and convert the binary off the hat.
Right.
No.
Binary is a different animal. Hex, you can see that. Like I still remember, it's been, granted, years since I've ran a case, but I still know some of the hex values to for their ASCII conversions, and number conversions, just because you do so much of it to verify what your findings are that, man, it just stays with you. And it's a great party trick, but that's about it. People poke you like you're the monkey.
I take it your wife's equally as impressed as mine is if I bring hex out.
Yeah, exactly. Now you know my wife, so you've met her. She is not a nerd in the slightest. How she ended up with me, I still don't know. People are convinced I just bought her from an online magazine. But you know what I'm talking about. People who have met my wife don't understand. But I used to have this shirt. Speaking of binary, it was a black shirt, and it says there are 10 people in the world, those who understand binary and those who don't.
Yeah.
And I think she threw my shirt away. I'm not convinced, but I think she's like, this is so nerdy. It's out of here. No, it's 2. You got to convert the binary. And she's just looking at me like, I have no idea what you're speaking to me right now. Anyway.
Yeah. I'm afraid it got lost in the laundry.
Yeah, lost. Mistook it, the laundry basket for the waste can, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened. Speaking of these verifications, I always ask the guest, which I did you as well. So what are you seeing and what kind of things do you want to talk about? And your response to me was the push buttoners, I think, is what it was.
Yeah, it's sort of, and a few sort of industry peers, Alexis Brigoni, Heather Sharpenter, and they've sort of reiterated, and this has been bubbling for a little while, is that this industry is becoming full of operators, full of people who just rely on pushing the button.
Yep.
And I understand the need to push the button because of the sort of the vast quantity of digital evidence that people are reviewing. But in my mind, you push the button to reveal the low-hanging fruit. But I still want to validate that fruit, and I need the capability to get the high fruit. So there's a place for push button, but if you're just push button without understanding what that button pressing is doing, then you're setting yourself up for a fall, in my opinion.
No, I 100% agree. And this is funny. This debate's been going on a very long time. When I was back doing exams too, is, and you get, because I turned into one of these, don't ever push the button, blah, blah. You should know what's going on
Yeah.
behind it, which is absolutely 100% still true to this day because of the points that you just brought up. You have to know what the software is doing. And if you don't, you're in trouble. But then there's that balance of, should everyone be a digital forensic examiner? And that's what I call a digital forensic examiner. If you understand what's happening, it's like a mechanic of the car versus the driver of the car. It's kind of use a really loose analogy. The drivers of the car don't always understand what's happening under the hood, where the mechanic or / engineer understands, okay, hey, this car is wobbling a little bit because I know it's this components, and that's what I relate to as a digital forensic examiner. Is that very similar to kind of a decent analogy in between there?
No, that is a decent one. And sort of back in my law enforcement days, we were sort of one of the first in the UK that was pushing some of our work out to regular cops and investigators. And initially we got that balance wrong. We found that we were being called to give testimony on stuff that we never would have put before a court of law, because people who were reviewing that evidence didn't understand what they were reviewing. So it took us a lot of to and fro to sort of get it right. And eventually we ended up on almost like a traffic light system, that we would say, look, if the evidence falls into this category and it's green, feel free, you can report on that. And by green, I mean it's a Google search, or it's a non-deleted SMS conversation or a WhatsApp. Most people can understand that. They've got mobile phones, they've got computers, they can understand it. If it's a Google search, it's going to fall in green. If it's an image, unless it's in camera roll, it's going to fall into amber. And then deleted artifacts would go straight to red. And if they were in amber or red before they went to court, they had to refer it to our forensic unit for advice and assistance. And once we got that balance right, it helped us. It helped us deal with the volume of traffic, but we had to make that investment to get that system right.
Yeah, that's actually a great system that I've never even considered something like that before. It's real similar to, you had mentioned the term operator, which I think's been around for quite some time. I'm not sure who came out with that in the forensic world. And can you explain what you consider an operator level is? I'm assuming it falls in that green analogy that you just gave.
Yeah, so an operator, for example, could be tasked with initially reviewing a case. So they're just carrying out keyword searches, or they're just looking at what Google searches have been made, and then they sort of tag the evidence, report on it, and that's the end of sort of their investigation. But the problem is those operators are now starting to report on the amber, the red, with very little understanding of what the tool is doing.
Right.
Yeah, and they're sort of setting themselves up into dangerous territory. And I would feel for them when they're given testimony, because that's when you just want the ground to swallow you up if you haven't got the answers. Because just saying MSAB's products told me that, Sailbright's products, FTK, it doesn't cut it in law. And there will be a defense expert who will make you want to jump down that hole before you push down
it. That's true. That's a very true statement for sure. I'd be curious if anyone in the audience, real quick, also has a story similar, or something that you may think on this topic. Please let us know down below in the chat. And if you're watching this after the live event happens, throw it down in the comments. Always curious to see someone else's thoughts on this, and examiner's thoughts on this, because I know this very topic right here, which I thought was, as soon as you mentioned it to me, was a great topic. That's not something that's talked about nearly enough. It's been going on for a while now, and I don't know that it's fully been hashed out. And I don't know that it, obviously, you and I here, not over a pint or anything, are going to solve this problem, but we can sure talk about it and hopefully bring it a little bit more to light.
Yeah, and some of it is also, a lot of this industry is obviously governmental. It is funded by the government, and money is extremely tight. and lack of training. A lot of people just get given tool training, and not all tool training will teach you what goes on under the hood. It will teach you the magic press button, but sometimes you don't get the explanation of what's actually going on under the hood. And if you're then not, if the budget's not there for you then to go on a vendor neutral course, like here in the UK it'd be Control F, or in the US like one of Jessica Hyde's Hexaura classes, something that's vendor neutral, or Spider Forensics, those classes very much teach you what's going on under the hood. But I've been on I've lost count of how many tool trainings I've been on throughout my career, and some of them don't teach you what goes on under the hood. So if you're just one of those operators who's going on the tool training because you've got to tick the box to say that I've been on the tool training and I've passed it, then that's why we're breeding this army of just operators.
Yeah, it definitely, and don't get me wrong, I don't think either one of us are downplaying the operator,
No.
because it's a much needed role. Because imagine just simple harassment, or here in the U.S. domestic violence with a with a protection order attached to it. As a forensic examiner, that's the last thing you want to do is grab someone's phone because they're breaking a protection order. I mean, that's not. There's much bigger cases, missing kids, children being exploited, than two grown adults that are, back and forth with one another.
Yeah, and I sort of liking it to, and I'm running a webinar series at the moment for MSAB, and it's all about going beyond the button. So it's a 3-part series, and I'm 2 down. I've got 1 to go that's happening July 10th, and the first part was all about preparation, and it was all about, and I liken it to, and we sort of say there's a role for an operator and there's a role for a fully trained forensic analyst. And I liken it to, if you had a missing dog, for example, you may send up or a missing person. Initially, you may send up a drone or a police helicopter to search a field where they were last seen. If you then added a bit more intelligence to that and you heard on missing because they were suicidal, they've got previous self-harm, you then may think, well, we need to go a bit deeper than just sending up a police helicopter here. We may need to send in a search team of 10 officers to search for every blade of grass. And so it's all about triaging and assessing what is in front of you. So the first part of my webinar was all about the preparation. What is the case that you're trying to solve? What is it? What details about the case do you have? Do you have a date and time range? Do you have linked suspects? Are you looking, what is the offence that you're investigating? And it was all about have a sort of digital strategy in place, and also make sure that your tool is set up to achieve the best possible outcome. Because every tool has got buttons that you can turn on. For example, you could run OCR, you could run sort of all of the different AI options that are now, but of course they add to your processing time. And would you want to turn OCR on, for example, for a job that contained text? No, you wouldn't. If it was for a fraud and you were wanting to go through scanned documents, then you might want to turn OCR on. So it's all about setting up a strategy before you just jump in. And then the second part of the webinar, which I've just recorded, was teaching people to use that strategy, but then what to do if you can't find the evidence. And so the tool has passed these 10 applications, but my digital strategy said the suspects were communicating on this application that the tool hasn't passed. How do you then go and tackle that? And how do you understand protobufs and ABX files? And how do you go into a database that's got embedded files in it? It's all about understanding sort of that element rather than relying on the tool to do everything for you. And then part 3 of the webinar is going to be how to report on that data, because a lot of people go too technical on their reports. And I've been guilty of that myself, and then paid the price at court when I'm giving testimony and they're asking about, I'm having to explain hexadecimal. And really, you're creating a report for a jury who do and digital forensics. So it's about keeping your report relevant and to the facts. So yeah, it's been a really enjoyable webinar series to do. It's been a lot of interaction, a lot of good feedback, and again, it just shows that element of how do you deal with when the tool doesn't find evidence.
Right. Now you referred this, and I was trying to look around a little bit to see if I could find that series. How can people find your webinar series?
Yeah, so if they have a look on MSAB's LinkedIn channels or the Twitter/X, it's been heavily advertised on there.
Okay.
Or
Perfect.
if they look me up on LinkedIn, or if they just look for MSAB Big Marker, they should be able to find it with a Google search.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You guys use that awesome platform as well. It's phenomenal.
We do. Yeah, I'd used it somewhere else. I was really impressed.
I will find the link for that too. If someone cannot find it for whatever reason, you should be able to. That's some great search terms that you could use, and I'll put them into the show notes down below, below the description. That way they can kind of link back.
Yeah, but it's been attended really well, and I think one of the reasons is because we're doing a mini sort of CTF. So in part 2, I gave people access to a file, which is password locked, and I haven't given them the password yet because they've got to come back for part 3 to get the password.
Right.
And then I'm going to set them a series of questions, and it's going to be about an unsupported app. And the winner is going to get the MSAB challenge coin.
Yeah. Do I have mine setting right here? I was just showing, I think, my wife for that. I think it's already back on the rack.
Yeah,
back there.
So it's a really nice coin. It's got some hex on it. Steph, kudos to Steph. She designed it.
Wow.
But yeah, so I think because straight away people were like, they just want the coin. They really want the coin. So I thought, what a great way to incentivize people to get them deep diving and thinking outside of the find evidence button.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to see how many people actually find the right answer. Now, how are you judging the winner on that? Is it the first person that finds it, or what's that?
The speed. First person and the most correct answers. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that'll definitely be a challenge. Challenge. Now, do you have to have attended all 3 of the pieces in order to be able to solve that?
You don't. You can obviously go on to part 2, quickly get the link to the files, download the files, and then just come back for part 3 to get the challenge if you think you're good enough.
There you go. And when is part 3 again?
July 10th.
July 10th. There you go. Oh, you got some time. You got quite a little bit of time actually to go find that and download the files and participate.
Yeah, and then the challenge will be set on July 10th. So they'll be able to download the files, and it's just a little portable case subset of a bigger extraction file. But they will soon realize that the app I'm interested in has not been nicely passed.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a little too easy, right? If you just push the button.
Exactly.
Yeah, that might be a little bit. That's awesome. I love hearing those things for sure. And that's great.
Yeah. And it's great for people in the industry to sort of refresh and sort of, especially if they haven't used MSAB's Examine tool, it sort of gives them an insight of how it could be used, because most of them will have Examine in their library, thanks to having XLY. So it's just good to show them, hey, there's another tool out there that can do these hard jobs. But I also enjoy it. There's a lot of students who participate as well.
Oh, that's going to be interesting for sure. I may have to just find it and pop in, because we're talking a little bit of time yet. So yeah, I know there's a U.S. holiday, which you guys strategically didn't make it on the U.S. holiday, so that's good.
I will be too busy voting for the next UK person to take charge and fail again.
Yeah,
that's what we do for 4th of July.
We're our pain is a little bit more extended until the fall. So
yeah,
until that happens. Yeah,
but no, like you said, the whole operator when and can it be solved? I don't think it can be. But what I'm just trying to urge people, and this is where the ISO standard in the UK has really hampered people, because like I said at the start, I'm very fortunate that I get to travel the globe and see how different countries handle digital forensics, because it is completely different wherever you land. And the UK is very hampered by ISO, so accreditation. And a new person into the industry will walk into a police forensic unit, and they'll soon have to learn that if we get this cell phone, we have to follow this set of procedures. So they are being trained procedurally. And if they follow that procedure, and if it fails, they don't, it's almost as if they're thinking their intuition has gone, because, well, it doesn't say it on my policy. And I sort of questioned someone. I was like, well, what would you do? Well, that's not in my policy, so I would put it back on the shelf. So ISO has really hampered thinking outside of the box. And I just wanted to sort of promote and change that, which is one of the reasons I sort of run this series, was to try and promote people to learn Python, learn skill sets that are going to benefit you and benefit others. Because that's one of the big things that I love to promote, is all of the open source projects that exist in this industry are absolutely amazing. And there's some very talented people out there who have come together, like the DFIR Hitchhiker's Guide that was written for free by the industry.
Mm-hmm.
The DFIR Discord channel. There's just so many outlets. And when you and I started, Kevin, that there wasn't that sort of, you can go onto any of these channels, Cyber Social Hub, the Discord, you can ask any question and there will be people there to help you.
Yeah. I love the community. Love the community.
Yeah. And it's the whole sharing. I remember when, I think it was when Alexis had started sort of his blog, and he was trying to solve a problem. And I remember replying to his blog post saying, why don't you try Alex Caithness? He's got a parser. It's on his GitHub. And then that introduced Alexis to Alex Caithness, who's here in the UK and is a very talented individual. And that's what the industry is about. That's what we all prosper from. And if you've taken the time to solve an application and solve that puzzle, share it, write a blog post about it, because you then you have a far better understanding of the issue. So then if you do have to give testimony, you have a lot more confidence in the way you present that evidence, because you've tested it inside out. I also advocate for people to create test data. I'm always running with a test phone. Wherever I fly in the globe, I've got a test phone on me, and I'm always replicating, and then I'm extracting the device. I'm wanting to see what it's doing. And the best way for me to do it is to produce that data on that device.
Yep. And
then I can test and validate. Because validation is key. And most tools, in my opinion, if they don't allow you to validate, that you shouldn't trust your tool. You should validate it. And I work for a vendor.
Yeah, definitely trying to hide something for sure.
Yeah, well, if a tool says this number belongs there, well, where did you get that from? Show me where it came from so I can understand as an examiner. And if I have to give testimony, I can give it with confidence. Mm-hmm. If you don't show me, or if you don't make it easy for me, then probably you're going to go and find another tool that does.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. For those of you who are, I see people popping in and out of the podcast here. We were talking about a couple series that Adam's doing on for webinars based off the topic we were just talking about. I've posted the link just in chat down below. I did find 3. And then I just reverse engineered the URL and put a 2 in place of the 3, and there it was. So thank goodness for consistent URLs that we could just change it. And I placed that one down into chat as well. I'll put them down into the show notes too, so you guys can go and watch that, because it looks like I have 2 here up on the screen, and I literally can push play, and it's ready to rock.
Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I got, especially the first episode, which was about, I had a lot of mock sort of forensic strategy forms. I had a lot of people in the US reach out for those. A lot of people who, and it's like anything in life. If you're decorating a room in your house, or you're planning some renovation or extension, if you don't plan it properly, you're going to regret it. And something will go wrong.
Oh boy, absolutely. 100%.
So to me, sort of putting that time in at the start of an investigation, it's going to save you so much time in the long run. And it's going to allow you to have a better investigation.
Yep. No, absolutely. And you were talking about your test devices, and I don't know. I think it takes and that may be the defining characteristic between an operator and a true forensic person, is that you're a nerd and you really want to know what that device is doing. It's like, okay, what did it change, and how is it laying the data down to what I just did? And you really want to check. Where the operator, I don't know that they don't care. It's just they're not that interested in it. They want to get the results, but they're not that interested to dive into it. Like, we're a lot alike. We just dig down and go, okay, how's this doing this? And you zone everything out in the world to try to figure this one problem out and to get it solved.
It goes back to your analogy of the driver of the car compared to the mechanic. It fits that perfectly, because the driver of the car, sometimes I just want it to get me to A to B.
Yeah.
That's all I care about.
Right.
Whereas I want it to get me to A to B, but I also want to understand how it's getting me to A to B. And I was that geek back in the 80s with a Commodore 64, with a magazine, and typing out the code for a game just for it to crash.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was like, I'm going to do a basic line. It's like line 10, print hello world space, and then in your quotes, and then line 20, go to 10 and run. And that was my extent of the basic back then.
Yeah, exactly. And, but I thank my dad for getting me into this industry, because he was the one who, I think he used my brother and I as a way of getting the things he wanted, because he wanted the Commodore 64. Then he went to the Amiga. Then he convinced us that we wanted the NES. Yeah. And we sort of went through, and then my brother had sort of veered off at this point, but my dad and I were building PCs back then. And it sort of really, I've always had that element to me, but then I joined the police, and I was very unfortunate to have that knee injury, but then I was fortunate because it sort of put me back to the path I started many years before.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have other Commodore 64 fans in the audience too. Ron was commenting on that too. So no, that's really a great story, and it's a very smart father that you have as well, because I do the same thing with my son. I mean, we have PlayStations and everything else. And of course, I use the excuse it's for the kids. When it's me down here some late nights playing away.
Yeah, I've got a 6-year-old son and doing exactly the same now. Of course, he wanted a Nintendo Switch when he was 2.
Yes, absolutely. And pretty soon, when wait till he gets, I don't know if he's to the point where he's competitive yet or not, but my son is just now at age 8, where he gets mad when dad doesn't let him win.
Yeah, he's starting to get that way, and I'll call it the sport that you guys will understand. So he's just got into soccer, which has made me very, very happy. But yeah, the competitive side of me can't let him win, and oh my God, he hates it.
They have to get used to that. That's just the way the world works.
Well, I don't know what schools are like in the US, but they teach now that there are no losers here in the UK. And I disagree with that.
Yeah, no. Yeah. We'll teach them the right way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's my responsibility to teach him that in life there are winners and losers. And you can't win them all, but you won't lose them all.
That's right. Exactly. I absolutely love it. So I put the links again to the webinar down there. What else is new going on at MSAB? We haven't talked much about the company itself. What do you have going on over there?
So literally a major release came out this week. So
Oh.
we tend to have sort of 4 major releases a year, sort of filled in with micro releases in between. And I'm also doing a webinar for the major release next week as well, July 3rd. So I
Really?
told you off air that I'm webinar.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to
Yeah.
put I'm going to actually, hang on. Let me make sure these are all relevant to. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to post one more link here. And this is probably the link I'll end up putting in the show notes instead of just chat here. This is your Big Marker homepage, right? This shows all of your webinars.
So that's where, yeah. So people are going to be able to go to that channel. They're going to be able to see what webinars are upcoming and what ones are in the past. But yeah, so next Wednesday, I'm doing one on the major release. So
I see that.
sort of, yeah, going through the details of what's contained. We've been sort of really trying to make the platform more user friendly. So there's a lot of different.
Right.
Take Android for example. You can have this Samsung S23, but there could be 20 variants of that with 20 different chipsets. And if I'm just a push button user, I will say it's a Samsung S23. Whereas the tool needs to understand, well, it is an S23, but inside it is the Qualcomm chipset or it's the Exynos chipset. And so the dev team have been working really hard behind the scenes to sort of, you press that button and the tool's are going to carry out those checks on those different chipsets. So yeah, so really strong, especially for the Qualcomm side, which is seen heavily in the US.
Yeah.
If you've got an Android with a Qualcomm, you need to try XRY.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Makes it a lot easier. No, I'll probably try to tune in for that. That's next, just coming Wednesday now, because today's Friday already. Holy cow.
Yeah, so
I don't understand where the year's going.
I know, it's crazy. But yeah, it's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern for you guys. Sorry, the guys on the West Coast. I have tried, and again, feedback in the comments. So the series that I'm doing, part 1 I did at 10 a.m. Eastern, which was 3 p.m. for me here in the UK and 4 p.m. for the rest of Europe. I tried pushing it back an hour. So I did it 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern, and tried to be kinder to the guys on the West at 8 a.m. But again, I still don't know if it's that sweet spot for them, as they're probably fed up of waking up with a Brit talking at them at 8 a.m. So
it's like, I haven't had my coffee yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But it's a real hard balance to sort of find that sweet spot that sort of suits Europe and the US.
It is. It is. I think those times work for that. I mean, minus California. Sorry, California, but
Yeah.
Just the way it works.
Yeah. And my colleagues in Australia, they always say, "What about us? You always forget about us." And I'm like, well, hey, I was a cop and worked night shifts. Maybe if you want to watch the webinars. But no, to be fair to them, I have done a couple of, I think they're 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. I've woke up and spoken to myself a webinar for our Australian market. So
I do remember those days. Yeah. Little groggy voice, but yeah, you truck through them pretty well. So
yeah, of course. So did you used to teach for Australian market as well, I'm guessing?
Yeah, global market. So it was a little bit of everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's a strange feeling talking to yourself in a dark room when the rest of your house is asleep.
Yeah, for sure. You try not to be too loud and so you don't wake the rest of the family up or anything like that. But yeah, no, 100%. And you forget, I was a radio DJ long before law enforcement. So I sat in a room and talked to myself all the time. So I was already well versed at talking to myself. So and probably with my ratings that I occasionally saw, I pretty much was talking to myself. So
yeah. I'm sure you weren't, but no. And the other thing here at MSAB we're trying to push it. There's sort of within the mobile industry, there's sort of a lot of discussion around the device state. When you receive a device, a lot of vendors will say, well, we can, and anyone who's watching, the binary on my t-shirt converts to "it depends," because that is the most common question that you will get in mobile forensics. Because depending on a device state, it will depend on what. some vendors would say it would depend on what type of extraction you can get. To me, a device states you can get an extraction or you can't. And I say that because here at MSAB, if we've got a device in BFU, so it's before first unlock, then if we support that device, we will get you a full extraction. It's not a limited extraction. We're not just going to get you certain files. Whereas some vendors in the industry have said, no, a BFU, you're going to get a limited. And unfortunately, that then becomes accepted. So we're trying to change that. Try other tools, because what one vendor says doesn't relate to every tool. Because to me, BFU before first unlock, AFU after first unlock, they are a device state. That is not an extraction capability. Here at MSAB, if we've got a device in BFU, we will brute force that device that then puts it into an AFU state that then allows us to get a full file system or a physical extraction. So really, it's a case of stop putting devices back on the shelf because you believe that it's BFU. Try the other tool that's in your office, or reach out to people and say, hey, before I put this back on the shelf, can you do anything?
Yeah, I would do that all the time. If I couldn't get some, I'd be calling, because we'd use one particular piece of software because that's the budget we had. But you're aware of the other ones that exist. Call them and say, hey, can you get this? And guess what? You may switch your budget over to a new vendor if they're able to solve your case, especially if it's a major case. You definitely want to at least try.
Yeah, exactly. And the Kirin devices from Huawei, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So us and a lot of other vendors have been able to get into them for some time. But one of their there was a certain type of encryption on those devices that no vendors could get into. And it's called, you'd see the error and you have to go on probably Cyber Social Hub, Discord, and just search for blob 341. That was the type of encryption that was given mobile forensic examiners a lot of headaches. Well, the clever guys in Stockholm have solved that for devices in AFU at this time. And they're still working on it, but they were very, very happy to get that over the line. And that came in the latest release. So if you've got any devices that you find, this is going to be blob 341, well, if it's AFU, then download the latest version because game on again.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Adam, I want to thank you, man, for hanging out with us today. And lots of great information. And for everyone watching, don't forget, I posted links in the chat for now, and they're going to be into the description of this soon after this goes live. But if you haven't checked out MSAB, just head on over to msab.com and check them out. And I also posted a link to, because you have that webinar coming up, a couple of them, next Wednesday, and then again on, you say the 12th or the 10th?
Yeah, the Wednesday after. So it's literally Wednesday. So
there you go. Yeah. And make sure you check those out. I posted those links as well. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of stall here a little bit and see if there's any last minute questions for Adam, or any other topic that you wanted to hit in the last couple of minutes here. Maybe that was something that we missed.
Yeah, just to sort of reinforce for people in the industry to, if you're new to the industry or if you're established, it's all about have a test device and create test data, carry out research, and enjoy that part of the cat and mouse element of digital forensics, and share it. If you create a Python script, share it with the community and contribute to some of these open source tools that are doing amazing things. And every tool needs to be validated. So even if you can only purchase one tool, there will be an open source tool available for you, so you can go and validate that your paid tool is doing what it should be doing. And to me, it's all about just understand what's going on beyond that find evidence button, and validate, which is what I always say. Make sure that your tool, if it's given you a date and time, validate it and make sure that it's correct. Or if you do come across an unsupported app, research it, create test data, extract the device. Create data, log it, know exactly what you did, dates, times, keywords, go back in, hunt for it, and keep a log and write it up as a blog post, because you'll be amazed how somebody might be investigating a really serious, say a homicide, for example, and your research has then helped them solve it quicker. And that's how this community works. And I feel very humble and proud to be part of that.
Absolutely, 100,000,000%. That's the whole reason Cyber Social Hub exists, is for people to share that type of information with one another as they come across these things and discover new things. It's really what that community is about, and to share it. So if you do write something, please bring it in, post it. There's never a charge. There's never, if you just put it in there, somebody will find that information, and who knows who you may be helping. I mean, you may be helping a abducted child be found. You may be helping solve a homicide. Who knows what exactly is your small contribution may in turn do. So as Adam was saying, please do that. It's a great advice, Adam. I'd really appreciate it, man.
Yeah. And just sort of finishing off, that in the webinar that I just did on Wednesday, I spoke about some of the artifacts that I investigated every investigation. So when a device extraction landed on my desk, the first thing I wanted to prove, and Brett Shavers talks about it, I needed to put the suspect on that device, provenance. That's the first. There's no point investigating anything else if you can't prove provenance. Right. So the first things that I would look for were account information. Then I would look for time zone, what the language was set to. That they would sort of be my building blocks for my investigation. And MSAB's got a customer forum, and I was very pleased that I went on there today, and one of our tech guys, a guy called Eric, who works in France, amazing with Python. He's now written a Python script that's free for our customers that will go and scrape that and put it into event details within XRY. Within a day, he's done that.
Very cool.
Yeah. And that's the community working, and that's how it works.
Yep. Exactly so. Exactly so. All right. I don't see any questions.
I agree with Ron in the chat.
Go ahead. What's that?
I agree with what Ron said in the chat.
Oh yeah. Talk to myself. I'm the only one that understands what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's true for a lot of us, I think. Oh, great. Well, Adam, hey man, thank you very much for hanging out with us for the last hour. I mean, that hour went by fast. So again, guys, check out msab.com and the links that are going to be in the notes below to catch up the two webinars. Plus, I give you the web address for the entire webinar, please, or kind of the host for all of the webinars are going to be there. So make sure you do check those things out. So until then, Adam, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. And I'll see you at another conference, I'm sure, at some point here.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And thank you for having me on. And I'll go and change the liquid in this.
Yeah, on a Friday, you absolutely have to. All right. Hey, take care.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.